Again, it's lunchtime, so you guys will just have to ignore the bells. Okay, so we're going to use law of sines when we have at least an angle. Okay, we're going to use law of cosines when we have sides. Okay, or maybe two sides and included angle. Alright, so we've got a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2b cosine a. Sorry, it should be bc cosine a. Alright, or b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of b. Or c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. So those are your formulas. Again, no need to memorize them. They're all on your sheet. Okay? To solve a side angle side triangle. Step 1. Use law of cosines. The side opposite the given angle. Okay? 2. Use law of sines. To find the angle opposite the shorter of the two sides. Alright, so step 1, use law of cosines to find the side opposite the given angle. Step 2, look at your other two sides and pick the angle across from the shorter. Do that first. And then the last step is the easy one, 80 minus angle 1 plus angle 2. Alright, so we are by 2, because that's the important one, is going to be to make sure. Alright, example 1. If I give you that measure of angle A equals 120 degrees, and B is equal to 8, and I want you to solve the triangle. So the first thing you're going to want to do is draw your picture of your triangle. And again, your picture is just used for you, accurate. You know what? So A I know is 120. It doesn't matter where I put B or C. So B, C. You could put them in either place. So remember that little b is always opposite angle B. So if I'm at angle B, little b is 7. And little c is opposite angle C. So here's little c, 8. Alright, so this is first thing, let's talk that we know it's a side angle side. Right, you have two sides and an included angle. So the first thing, step 1 said, is find the length of BC. Alright, so step 1, find little a. Is the cosine. I'm looking for little a squared equals b squared plus c minus 2a. Alright, looks like a little intimidating formula, but let's see how we're going to work him out. Alright, so we don't know little a. We do know that little b is 7. We do know little c is 8. And we know that, so b is 7, c is 8, and angle A is 120 degrees. Alright, so let's grab our calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 7 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 7 times 8 times the cosine of 120. So I'm just going to type it all in one fell swoop, and I get 169. So a squared is equal to 169. Take the square root, and I get a is equal to plus or minus 13. But I know since I'm talking about a length that I'm just going to say a equals 13. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 says, let's go ahead and find the angle opposite the shorter side. So you have a side that's a 7 and a side that's an 8. Which one do we want, which is the smallest? 7, so we're going to use law of sines to find angle B. Okay, so if you remember law of sines, and I'm sorry, I'm flipping between 2 pages, so let me just go ahead and tear that out of my book. Alright, law of sines is going to say that alright, so law of sines, so we're going to find angle B. So law of sines is little b over the sine of b is equal to little a over the sine of a is equal to little c over the sine of c. This should be a b. Alright, so do I know little a? Yes, I do. I know that little a is 13 now over the sine of 120 is equal to little b, which is 7, over the sine of big B. Is equal to, now I can go ahead and do this, 8 over the sine of c, even though I'm going to go ahead and solve this proportion first. So this is going to be first. So I'm going to do 13 over the sine of 120 is equal to 7 over the sine of b. Now this is what we did last night. So now let's go ahead and cross multiply. So I get 13 sine of b is equal to 7 sine of 120. You're trying to get b by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and divide by 13. So I get sine b is equal to, alright, let's type this into the calculator, 7 sine 120 divided by 13. And I get 0.4463. Oh, 4663. Now, to get b by itself, I take the inverse sine. So inverse sine, 0.4663, is equal to 28 degrees. Now, if you want to be guaranteed 100% sure that you're right, you could now do this proportion to find c. Or we can say, you know what, I think I'm okay. Step 3, I'm just going to do 180 minus 120 plus 28. Realize, however, if you got this wrong, then this is going to be wrong. But you know what? These things are so much work, I'm okay taking that risk. And when all is said and done, you get that angle C is 32 degrees. Okay, so that's how we solve a triangle that's a side angle side triangle. So let's talk about how to do a side-side-side triangle. Alright, so to solve a side-side triangle, 1. Use both cosine. To find the angle opposite the longest side. And I'm going to put a star. This is the most important thing. So the most important thing on the side angle side was that you always try to find the shortest, the angle opposite the shortest. Here you're going to find the opposite angle of the largest. Okay? So backwards. Step 2. Use law of sines to find another missing angle. Step 3, do 180 minus angle 1 plus angle 2. Sorry, that should be measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2. Now, notice here in step 2 it just says to find, use law of signs and you choose. I'm going to still say, let's go with the shorter. That way we kind of train ourselves to do a particular method. Alright, so let's practice one of these. Example 2. Solve the triangle. Let's see, if A is 8, B is 10, C is 5. So again, you can draw any old picture you want. Label that triangle C in any order you want. Now let's fill in what we know. Opposite angle A. Right? So little a is opposite angle A. So let's put an 8 there. Little b is opposite angle B. There's a 10. And little c is here. So step 1. Use law of cosines to find the angle opposite the largest side. So I'm going to find angle B. And you understand why I picked B. Because B is opposite 10. And 10 is the biggest number of the numbers that I have. Okay, so which law of cosines talks about angle B? So it's this one. Okay, so let's write down that formula so we can plug in. B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine of B. So let's fill in. What's little b? If it helps you guys, you can put little a, little b, little c. Okay, if that helps you. Alright, so b is 10, so 10 squared equals 8 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 8 times 5 times the cosine of b. And I don't know what that is. Now here's where people make a mistake. Let's go ahead and clean it up first. I am not going to type this all into my calculator because X is not over here. So I get 100 is equal to 64 plus 25 minus, I'm going to go ahead and clean that up and put 80 cosine of B. So do you agree that here you have 100 is equal to 89 minus 80 cosine of B? What people want to do is put them together right here and call this 9 cosine. It's not. That would be like trying to take 9 minus 89. I'm going to subtract it. So I get 11 is equal to negative 80 cosine of B. How do you find cosine of B? Well, first we isolate it, so I'm going to divide by negative 80. So grab your calculator. 11 divided by negative 80 is negative 0.1375 is equal to cosine of B. So to find angle B, I hit inverse cosine negative 0.1375. And I get that angle B is 97.9 degrees. Right? So 97.9 degrees. So a lot more work when we're looking for the angle. A lot more math going on here than just typing it into the calculator. Now I need to go ahead and find either A or C. And at this point, if it's a side-side-side triangle, you don't have to figure out, you can do either one you want. But just to be consistent, I look at my two sides, I have a 5 and an 8. I'm going to find angle C next. Alright, and just because I'm running out of paper, I'm going to go ahead and do step 2 over here. So I know A over the sine of A is equal to B over the sine of B, C over the sine of C. Now let's fill in. Little a is 5, sine of A. Little b is 10, sine of 97.9. And let's see, little c is 5. No, I lied. Little a is 8. This is 5 over the sine of c. Sorry, I filled that in wrong. You guys good? Make sure you corrected that. Little a is 8. So it should be 8 over the sine of a, 10 over the sine of 97.9, and 5 over the sine of c. Alright, so let's go ahead and figure out. I'm going to go ahead and solve this part first, only because I don't want to lose the idea of always solving for the little side when I do law of sines. Okay? Alright, so let's cross multiply. So I have 10 times the sine of c is equal to 5 times the sine of 97.9. I divide that by 10. So I get the sine of c is equal to, let's type this into the calculator, 5 times the sine of 97.9 divided by 10. So I have the sine of c is equal to 0.4953. Now to find that sine, I'm going to hit inverse sine 0.4953. And I find out that he's, 30 degrees. So angle C is 30 degrees. Now how do I find angle A? Well, you have options. One option would be to go ahead and just work this proportion. Alright, but that's an awful lot of work. I've already kind of earned my keep today. So now I'm just going to say, to find this angle, I can do 180 minus these two. Alright, so angle A is equal to 180 minus 97.9 and 30. And I probably should have him as 98 degrees if I had read my directions. So 180 minus 97.9 minus 30. And so we're going to say that angle A is equal to 112. Alright, that's law of cosines. So what we're going to do is go ahead and just call this video short. And tomorrow morning we will start out with a word problem and learn how to use law of sines and law of cosines with its applications. You guys have a great evening, and don't forget to practice problems.